Good afternoon. It's 5 o'clock here on the East Coast. And if you're online, welcome to the free workshop, How to Finish an Ironman Without Losing Your Job, Your Family, or Your Finances. It is possible to complete an Ironman. In this workshop, we're going to go through a whole bunch of the questions that we got and what people want to have answers to. Maybe you have a question. It's probably in here. We put every one of them in here. And we have our head coach, Victor Moreno, with us today, and he's going to take you through some of those questions in a bit. But first, I'll introduce myself. My name is Caleb Page, and I work with Victor Moreno. He and I, we've been friends for a while now, and he's just done such a great job in what he's done in his coaching practice and in his own performance. In fact, I'll introduce him in a bit, just a little bit of housekeeping right here. First thing first, we're going to move fast. I'm talking fast. I know I'm full of energy, and I hope you are too. Shut down any other applications you have to conserve bandwidth for the workshop. That means if you're streaming anything, well, it could be Dropbox, it could be OneDrive, it could be Outlook. Any of those bandwidth hogs, shut them down. You know, it's a webinar, and sometimes things can get in the way of that. Have a pen and paper ready to take notes. Shut the door if you're in a place where it can be quiet and you can focus. That way then you can get the most out of this, so you can apply what you learn, what you hear from Victor during this workshop. We're going to have Q&A at the end of the session. So if there's something we missed, just write down your questions during the session so we can answer them right at the end. Now, this is a picture of Coach Victor, and I want to tell you a little bit about him. First off, he not only is he a trainer, a coach, he also is a competitor, an athlete. And I'm just going through some of the lists of some of the events in which he's competed in. You know, for instance, second place overall in a 60K ultra marathon, fourth place in category for a 70.3 triathlon, 25th in category for the Ironman Canada. I mean, that's a lot of stiff competition there. Trail runs, 42K. 70K second overall here, and Ultra 50K fifth overall. So he's walking the walk, and he is a coach. He has clients, about 75 active clients, and the background story is those have been clients in Mexico, where he's been from Mexico City. Well, when we met up, he said, Caleb, I want to figure out how I can talk to people that are probably more in the U.S. market, the American market, or English-speaking anyways. Can you help me? And that's what we're doing. So in this workshop we promise a couple of things. First one is we promise we'll answer all the questions we receive, so you can decide if training for an Ironman is right for you. Because there are people at different levels, people with different interests, and this might help you to make decisions about what to do. We're also going to share the framework we use that has helped Victor's clients train for Ironman triathlons while maintaining their family and their career responsibilities. One of the most asked questions is, how much time do I need to invest in this? And Coach Victor is going to get to that in just a bit. And then also we promise at the end of this webinar, we're going to give you access to our system so you can start training for an Ironman immediately. And stick around, because at the end, we're going to share everything about that. In fact, we have a little surprise for you that we'll be able to go through right at the end, and I'll share that with you as well. With that, I'm going to hand the controls over here to Coach Victor, who's going to start right into the questions of what we received. So, Coach Victor, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Hey, hello guys. Nice to see you. Nice to hear from you. As you know, my first language is not English, so I'm gonna try to do my best. And first of all, I want to thank you all guys to be here and to have all these questions for you. Let's get started. So I have these personal questions. It's like, how do I start? It's like, where do I begin? How do I get started? First of all, you may have to think about it. It's like you need to learn, study a little bit about what an Ironman is, because I mean, it's really easy to say, hey, I'm gonna be an Ironman, but there's so much stuff involved. Like you have to keep everything in balance, like your family, work, your finances, yourself. You have to check up with, what I usually recommend is just to go to a doctor first, just to get a blood test and everything, so you make sure that everything is working okay with you. And then after that, of course, I recommend you to hire a coach, and then have a nice talk with him, and then tell you all your main goals, what they are, and then how can you get them achieved. And after that, you just need to set up after you set up your main goal, you start working on it, and as simple as that. You just need to give your first step. And I have another question that is like, where or when do you begin if you're in decent shape? Well, in this case, actually, this is a tricky one because there are some people that they tell me, "Hey, I want to run a marathon, but I don't want to start it now because first of all, I want to be in shape, and then I want to lose weight, and then I wanna. So don't think don't fall in that trap. So what I will recommend is like you will never be in a perfect shape. I mean, not even the pro ones, the elite athletes are in the best shape ever. So it's I recommend you just to go and start. Your starting point is when you decided to start. That's the best moment to begin to train for an Ironman triathlon. And then let's go to the next one. Next. Okay. And then we have the training schedule. We have so many questions about it, and a lot of questions are really related. It's like, how long should you work out each day? It's up to you. Actually, the main problem is like, okay, you have a full-time job, you have a family, maybe you have a couple of children, and you have plenty of stuff to do. You have friends, you have parties to go, you have dinner to go to attend, or maybe your schedule is too tight. So it's all depends of what your time is really available. So that's why I always recommend you to hire a coach, and then he can help you out about what to do with your timing and how to set it up like in the perfect way so you can perform better on your training. So an average time, it will be maybe for an Ironman on weekend, during the week, along the week, it will take you like maybe 1 hour or 1 hour and a half. That's at least. And on weekends, well, you have to talk a lot with your family or with your friends because you might get absence on that one because when you're in your peak in your training, it'll take you maybe like 5 to 6 hours just for a full training day. So you don't want to get complained about like, hey, you're spending too much time on your bike. So be ready for that. And well, we have the next question is like, how many hours a week do I have to train? Well, we already say that it's like 1 hour and a half, maybe at least. Well, what I usually recommend is like 2 hours, 2 hours and a half, which is like the better ones. So, but don't worry, we can split it in 2 different sessions. So maybe in the morning, early in the morning, you can go out for a nice swim, and then at night you can go for a treadmill run, or maybe a spinning session, or strength session. Well, we can figure it out. And what's the minimum time per week I can train and still finish? Okay, first of all, you need to focus. Well, you need to think about the Ironman. It's the Ironman. It's way too long. It's too much time. The distances are too long. So you just not have to train your body. You have to train your mind, because once you train your mind, I mean, your body has to obey. I mean, there's no options about that. So at that point, it's like, well, you can do an Ironman for maybe if you train like 15 hours a week. Well, you can do it. You can perform okay. And actually, of course, it always depends of your background. I mean, if you're doing sports for a long period of time, you will perform better, and you might need less time to get ready for an Ironman distance. And well, what's the best training time? Crunching the first time. Okay, and then we have this question: is like, what's the best training plan for the time you crunch it first timer? Actually, online or in magazines, there's plenty of training plans that they're really good. Some ones they're really bad. Sometimes they're really good. But the thing what I will always recommend is just to get a customized plan. So that in that way, I mean, you will be. I mean, there's so many variations about your way of life. I mean, uh, there's some people that work different hours, different schedules. Some people have the opportunity to open water swimming. Some people don't. Some people have a hilly area. They live in a hilly area. Some people they live in a flat area. So it all depends in what your main goal is. So I recommend you to get a customized plans. So that would be like your best plan ever. And what training plan do I need to complete for 140 for a full Ironman? Well, it's about the same. It's like customized plan. I always stick. I'm gonna be. I'm gonna push a little bit about the getting a personalized plan because I always recommend that. It's like the best thing ever because otherwise, I mean, you can just download a training plan which will work better and go good for you, but there's some like these tiny details that that needs to be taken care of. So if you get a training plan on the online, I always recommend you just to. It's really important to have in touch with the designer or the coach, so you can get all the things together and work so in all those small details. And then we have this another question is how to get enough training and with a full-time job, travel, and family to look after. Actually, well, this is a really nice question. I have an athlete that he travels like really bad. He goes maybe 15 days per month, and he spends so much time on the airports and on planes that it's really hard to have a deal to playing with all his training schedule. So I always tell him that he needs to get all his running shoes and his bathing suit and his pair of goggles in his backpack. So because you never know. I mean, sometimes he goes out and he gets hosting a really nice hotel that he has like an Olympic swimming pool. So he's like, okay, let's get the best of that swimming pool. So we focus on that one. And then sometimes he's like, well, once he went to Brazil and he stayed on this really creepy area. And he told me, hey man, there's no way I'm running out. So, okay, let's go and train indoors. So you need to have a plan that you can play with it. That would be a lot easier. And then we have another question that it says like, how long does it take from couch potato to an Ironman? And this one is like, okay, it all depends of your background. But I usually recommend you to go. I mean, if you haven't done anything exercise at all, I mean, you have to think about. I mean, there's some people that they don't even know how to swim, and there's some people that they don't even know how to bike, and there's some people that they don't have a running biomechanics. So you have to focus on that. So, but a good time it will be like maybe 1 hour, by 1 hour, yeah, 1 year or 1 year and a half. So I mean, it's gonna be a really erratic. It's going to be a huge change in your life. So don't try to make it quick. Don't try to make it faster. So it's like when you're cooking rice, you have to keep the flame down. So the taste it will be a lot better. And then that will take you to another question. It's like, what's the best training workout to test an Ironman readiness without doing an entire distance? Well, I have this guy that he's running for his first 100K trail ultra distance marathon. So, of course, it's like, oh man, how gonna set up my pace? What's my gut training plan? And there's so many variations that we need to check out. And by that time, it's like, oh man, you're not doing a 100K just to check out how you're doing on your 100K. So instead of that, it's like, okay, next weekend we have a marathon distance. So let's do it on pace. I mean, it's going to be a training, not your main goal. So let's focus on your training. Let's focus on your eating, your drinking. And after that, we'll have all the data down. And then we can start deciding. So I mean, if you're going for a full Ironman, maybe a half Ironman, it would be like a good opportunity, a good chance to check out how you're doing, so you can set up a better plan for your full distance. And then how to break out 12 hours. To break down, to go down to 12 hours, sorry guys, you need to invest time, you need to train, you need to focus on your training. You have to be really smart, because it's really easy to go fast, but it's really hard to go fast for a long period of time. Okay, so if you want to go under 12 hours, you need to know yourself a lot. You need to set up your pace. You need to be patient, and you need to be really smart, because when you going out to training, especially on the bike, I mean, when you're going out with a couple of guys, with a couple of friends, it's really easy to start going faster, and instead of getting a good training session, it became a small race on weekends, and you spoil the full training session for that, and it will take you longer to recover, and you will losing training sessions for that. So that's why I always recommend you just to focus on your main goal. And for that one, for going under 12 hours, I would recommend you to go at least to focus on to tie up your schedule. Maybe it will take you maybe like 20 to 25 hours a week for training. So, but don't worry, I mean, it will be along your full week. So that'll take you like maybe 2 hours and a half per day, or 3 hours. So you split it in two sessions. So it'll be 1 hour and a half for session during the week. So it'll be it's a lot easier if you break it that way. And is 2 months enough time to train for a full Ironman after doing a 7.3 Ironman with 3 months of training prior? Again, we need to think a little bit about your sports background. I mean, if you have done a couple half Ironmans before, I mean, you can do it with no problem. And what we usually do is not just focus on one event. I mean, of course, I mean, I want to set up, like an example, I want to go for an Ironman distance, but we have set up this main goal, and that I will name it like an A event. And after that, you need to do a different kind of events, like for testing. I will call them the B event. So instead of going full distance, maybe before your main goal, you might want to do a half Ironman, and then we can do like the C events, which it will be like different. These ones will give you like the experience to do to make a lot of mistakes. So you want to so in that time you will perform like in excellence in your Ironman distance. So maybe, yeah, I mean, you can do it, but you have to focus on which one are you going to perform better, on your half Ironman or in your full Ironman distance. So let's go to our next page. And of course, we're going for the sports. You have to think about, it's like the triathlon, there's 3 disciplines, but one sport, not 3 sports together, okay? So you have to focus on when you train, you're training you're training one heart divided in 3 disciplines, not 3 sports for one heart, okay? So it's really important to keep it in mind. So otherwise it's very easy to get overtrained. And of course, the risk of injury will increase. And that will take us to this question, where it's like, what do I have to improve my swim when I have troubles with breathing already? Okay, what do you mean, like having problems with the breathing? Do you have asthma, or do you have sinus, or we need to check out what the main problem is. After that, well, focus on get it fixed and be ready for that. Because sometimes you just get allergic for the Clorox or all the chemicals that are into the swimming pools. So if that's the case, what I will do is just put a little Vaseline into your nose, just a little bit, just to get it just to get it ready, so the all the chemicals won't get sticking to your nose, so you won't have any problems about breathing. And remember, when you're swimming, you're breathing with your mouth, not with your nose, because otherwise, well, you will definitely have problems with that one. It's like, and then we have this other question. It's like a lot of people get scared about open water swimming, and they focus a lot on swimming. And the question is like, how do you begin to set yourself up for success in the swim when you're not a strong swimmer? I don't know. I haven't met somebody that wins an Ironman distance on the swim. Never ever. I mean, it's the percentage of the swim it'll take like too short, because I mean the a faster swimming will swim like maybe like between 45 and 55 minutes. But an average swim it'll be like maybe like 1 hour and 15 and or to 1 hour and 30 minutes. So, but you'll be like you will be in 6 hours on your bike, and you will be 4 hours running or 5 hours running, and so you have to focus on your swim, but not to perform like to go really fast. You want to go out of the swim nice and clear, like really relaxed, really rested, so you can perform better. Because otherwise, I mean, if you get out of the water and you get out tired, you will have problems on the bike for sure. That's for sure. So let's focus on your endurance instead of trying to go fast. And then a lot of people get scared about open water swim. Tell me, guys. I'll tell you guys. This is really sometimes it gets scary, because when when you do swim only in swimming pools, you always look at the bottom. I mean, and then you have the chance always to see the black line at the bottom of the swimming pool, so you know exactly where you are and everything, and it's like a regulated area and all that stuff. And when you're doing open water swimming, if you're going on a lake, well, there is no bottom. I mean, everything is dark, and it gets really scary. And if you're doing open water swimming on the ocean, well, sometimes the water is too deep. You might see a fish, and you will think that it's a huge shark, and everything will bite you and everything will eat you. So you need to take care of that one. You need to get used to that one. So there's actually there's some techniques that I will recommend you, and always I take all my guys all the way down along all the training, so you can focus and you will have a really nice transition to the open water swimming. One example, the one drill that we usually do with my guys is like, okay, let's get a nice, let's do drills with no goggles, or let's do drills with the closed eyes, or 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 let's do drills with one eye closed, so you can start focusing on that one. And let's do drills with a lot of people going in the same direction, because of course when you're doing open water swimming or racing, I mean the swim might get really crowded, and you need to get used to that one. So with those kind of exercises, well, those ones are just a small kind of I used to say these ones, I'm just saying just a couple exercises that we can do. And but if we use all those drills, they will give you the confidence to go better and perform better in an open water swim. And I have fears of being out in the lake or river without being able to touch. Is there any way psychologically overcoming this fear? Yeah. This is actually in this case, I usually set up this drill. Like, just get a nice pair of goggles, painted with all the lens. You have to paint it with black, so you will have like this sense that you're not touching anything, you're not seeing anything at all. So you start getting with time, you will start getting more confident about it. So that's a really nice drill to set up your to start putting all your fears away. And then Well, it's funny because we didn't have any questions about the cycling, and the cycling is a huge thing about the Ironman. I mean, I met some people that they train really hard, but they don't know how to fix a tire, which is a basic thing. They're always gonna be like, okay, I get a flat, so they just go to the mechanic. I don't know how to make my gears. I mean, the gears are not running well, so I go to the mechanic, and just to say some things. So I mean, you need to get to know your bike. I mean, you're gonna spend thousands of hours on your bike, so you better. I mean, it's gonna be it has to be a really good friend, so you have to get used to it. And then one problem that actually I'm going to tell you, it's like an extra bonus. It's like you need to you need to learn how to set up a pace on the bike, because sometimes it's really hard to set up. I mean, actually, that's the hardest thing, to set up a pace, because I mean, if you're going if you're gonna be for more than 5 to 6 hours on your bike, it's a lot better to set up a pace, and you need to learn how to fuel yourself on the bike. So you have to eat a lot on the bike. You need to drink a lot of the bike, because otherwise, if you're not fueling well, I mean, you will have lots of issues on the run. And of course, we always wanted to end it well. And that'll take us to the running, which is the last part of the training of the Ironman distance. And of course, it's a marathon distance. And we have these questions, and it said like, how does one go for running 5K and 10K races comfortably, and only ever running a maximal distance of 11 miles to completing a marathon distance run? Okay. In these ones, it's like the bike. You need to focus on distance and endurance, and to set up a pace, because it's really fast to do. I mean, it's really easy to go fast, and especially if you're, I mean, for a 5K or a 10K, I mean, you can handle it. Maybe you will be like under an hour, maybe a 40 minutes for a 10K, just an example. But it's really a short period of time. But what happened when you set up, like when you ride a bike for 6 hours, and then after that you need to go for a run, for a marathon distance run. So you need to learn. You need to be patient. You need to learn what's your speed. You need to learn what your heart rate zones are, so you can set up a good pace, and you'll be done. And of course, we need to train the distance. Just like an example, if like for the people that I have people that I train, is like, okay, I haven't trained anything, I haven't run anything at all. Okay, let's go for a 2-hour run. And they look at me like, a 2-hour run? I didn't I told you I haven't run even a 5K. Like, okay, but you can do it. I mean, I'm not telling you that you need to do it fast. I'm not telling you that you have to do 20 miles in 2 hours. I'm just telling you that we're just going for 2 hours. So that'll give us a totally different focus. So it's a lot easier to go for 2 hours run instead of going for a 20 miles run. Okay, so it's a lot better to train by time and heart rate zones, which is a lot better. And then, of course, don't forget about just going all the things that go into the middle, like the transitions. And then I have these questions that some of our subscribers ask me, like, how do I prepare to transition in time? Allow me to finish. Don't worry. I mean, that's why we need to do a couple events before your main goal. I mean, you don't want to do your first transition into your Ironman distance. I mean, no way. There's no way. I mean, you need to practice. The only thing that you will do better is like doing practices. So you need what I usually do is like I do brick sessions. So like running and biking, or swimming and running, or biking and running. So you can start getting more confident and more secure about doing the transitions, because your body will feel different, your blood will be in different directions, so your body needs to get used to it, not just to, and you need to learn all that. And of course, like, if you're going out to the water after 1 hour or 1 hour and a half, and you might be a little dizzy, because the position of the body is totally different. So what happens if you're kind of dizzy and you don't remember where you left your bike? I mean, you need to learn a couple of tricks to know where your bike is, to find it like really fast, and they will save you like tons of minutes you doing that one. And of course, you need your you need to know what to have on your transition areas. Use the main things, the basic things, because some people are like, oh, I forgot my towel. I need some screen? Do I need some anti-shafting? Do I need to get, like, oh man, you're looking for a, you don't need too much stuff. I mean, the less the better. So the less things you need, the faster you will go. So we need to practice that one a lot. Of course, I'll teach you some tricks to go fast. And instead of doing a 5-minute transition, maybe you will go for 1 minute or 1 minute and a half. So that will be a good time. And then let's go for the goals. The main thing, the goals. How will I keep my motivation after finishing an Ironman to start training for the next one? Actually, it's, well, sorry guys, I have to tell you this one. But after you finish an Ironman, you will be in the nirvana for a couple of weeks. You'll be the most happy person ever. You'll feel indestructible. You'll feel like Superman. You'll be feeling like a hero. But after a couple of weeks, you'll start feeling like really depressed. You will lose motivation, because you work so hard for a long period of time. You train for, I don't know how many weeks. It'll take you longer, and after that, you need to set up a new goal. And of course, I'm not telling you that you need to, just before you finish your first Ironman. I always recommend you to go to another event maybe 2 months later. Not a full distance, of course, maybe an Olympic distance, maybe a half marathon, shorter one, a shorter event, so you will keep your body moving, which is really important, because all the chemicals that your bodies have used to do it, like endorphins, testosterone, or there's a bunch of chemicals that your body used to make, and suddenly they just stop producing them. Well, you will start feeling depressed. So you need to keep your machine going on, keeping nice and healthy, instead of just sitting on a couch. And then I have another one. It's like, I have recently completed my second sprint triathlon. What is a realistic time goal to give myself to complete an Ironman? Okay, let's do this. Both events are named triathlon, but they're two different kinds of sports. I mean, they're totally different. They're not even related. I mean, the sprint triathlon, it's a really fast event. It's really short. You need to be fast. You need to have a lot of power just to go through. But it'll take you maybe an hour, maybe even less. And for an Ironman distance, I mean, you might have to multiply it by 10 or 12 sprint distances. So the training plan is a lot of different. Of course, you will have the expertise to doing fast transitions, because I mean, in sprint, you'll learn a lot how to do fast transitions, because otherwise, I mean, the event is too short, so you don't want to waste any time. So you learn a lot about that one. But even the kind of energy you're using is totally different. So in sprint triathlons, you mostly use glucogen or carbohydrates, and on Ironman distance, you will use fat. So I will recommend you to go at least for a year for that one. And but don't worry, I mean, it's worth it to take a good time for that one. So I mean, you don't want to just go for an Ironman. I mean, you want to be injury free. So of course, there's always risk of injury, but the more prepared you are, the less risk to get injured, the better. So not just for short term, the long term that I'm talking about, like your heart, the muscles that you don't usually see, which are the ones that are they're most important. And then we always have to complement the training plan. Not, I mean, if you're focused on your training, you're missing the one of the main pillars, which is the diet. And we have to take care a lot of the diet. I mean, it's like you need to fuel your muscles like in the really the best way you can, because otherwise I'm gonna repeat it a little bit, you might get injured, because some people they say, okay, okay, I'm training 12 hours a week and it's way too long, so I can eat whatever. Sorry guys, it doesn't work that way. I mean, how do you want to fuel your muscles? With popcorns or with a good vegetables? Okay, it's up to you. And I have this question, is like, what's the most effective way to deal with my nutrition during the final months leading to a race? Okay, in that case, it's not just the final months. I mean, if you're just focusing on your final months, like, okay, I'm training, I'm going to train for a year, but I'm just going to focus and take care of my diet the last 2 months. Just an example, just to say one thing. And what happened with the rest 10 months? I mean, you're eating Doritos for 10 months, and then after that you're gonna get lean for the race. No, man. I always recommend you just to go for a nutritionist that it's focused on sports, on endurance and sports, which is really important. And then he will teach you not just to follow a diet. He will teach you how to mix all the meals together, how to put everything together, so you can start eating more healthy, and actually you'll start getting lean, and you'll start performing better on your training sessions. You will start recovering better. You'll start recovering faster. So it's worth it. And of course, you'll spend a lot of money, because I mean, you will. The people are always asking me, hey, what should I buy to perform better? What supplement should I eat? It's like, let's focus on what you usually eat. Let's eat better, and then after that, we'll decide if you need a complement or no. And then you start saving money for that. And then, what do I eat the week of the race and a race day? Of course, you have to you have to train your gut. That's really important, because I mean, for an Ironman distance, it's gonna take you a bunch of hours it's a long day. So just imagine that you're not eating at all on a racing day. Could you imagine like doing 6 hours on the bike and not eating anything? Just focus on that. It's like you have to train that. You have to focus on your meals, what you eat before, during, and after, so you can perform better all the way down. So it's really important to gut training. It's a main thing. And along the week, the last week, it's really, I mean, it's really easy to get this huge mistake, because when you're training in your peak training season, it's like you're training really hard, you're training for long of hours, and you need to fill your body with lots of energy. So your diet requirements will be lots, but when you're going down, I mean, you want to be rested, you want to be full recovered, and you will start eating less, not more, because it's really so, I mean, it's a lot easier to gain weight the last week before you race. So you need to take care of that one. Instead of eating more, start eating better, which is different. And and how do you maintain a nutrition thought 140, 1400.6 mile workout? Well, actually, I believe that you thought about the full distance, and in that one, I mean, you need to train your gut a lot. So there is so many information. I usually give my athletes a couple books so they can learn a little bit. And also, I have my wife that she's a nutritionist. She has this specialty in endurance, and she's also an ultramarathoner. So we usually give some speeches about how to train your gut, which is really important because you need to get used to because so you can perform better and you won't have any issue. You won't have any diarrhea or anything similar about in your training or in your race day. And I have another one. It's like it's a handful of salt, better than sports drink to keep from bunking, to the levels being off. Okay, this is a question that it's really. I mean the companies that develop sports drinks or sports products, they do a lot of investigation. So it's I always recommend you to go better for a sports drink instead of going just for salt, because when you sweat, you just don't sweat salt. There's a lot of more going through. So what about calcium? What about potassium? What about sodium? What about I don't know, of course, the water? And you need to get all the places replaced. But instead of getting replaced, you need to fuel them better. It's not like you're just getting it empty and then you just load and empty and load. No, you have to go before and beyond that. So of course, I won't recommend you to eat salt only. And how do you calculate figure the correct amount of calories to take in during your Ironman race? Okay, in this one, like an average, it will be maybe 800 calories per hour. Uh, so it ain't really matter. I mean, of course, that's an average. A heavyweight person or a taller person, maybe her income will be a lot higher. But don't worry, it's like you'll always be missing energy all time because it ain't matter about what you're losing. What it really matters is what can your body hold. Like an average, it will be like your body can hold maybe a maximum of 450 calories per hour. So just remember, I told you that you will be losing more than 800 per hour, so you're losing energy. So don't worry. I mean, the more you can eat, the better you will perform. So, uh, and of course, but one thing that you have to take care a lot, it's like your sweat. You need to make a sweat test, which is really easy to follow. Of course, if you send me a message or anything, I'll give you some information about how to make a sweat test. So you need to focus about what you're sweating, how much are you sweating per hour, how much will you might sweat on your main event. So in that point, you will have to drinking session, drinking plan or an hydration plan for your main race. And let's go for the next thing, which is the competition. And that will take us to this question is, it is easier to complete a triathlon at sea level if you're at coastal elevations. That's the theory, because sometimes if you're living in a high altitude, maybe the weather won't be as hot as it seems on sea level. So you need to think about it a little bit. It's like, okay, you will be perform better, but the heat will be an issue. So what happens if you live if you train a high level and you're always wearing a nice jacket to make you feel hot when you're training? Actually, I think that you will be perform better on the race. because you need to remember, you need to focus on your when you have a set up a goal. It needs to be the weather. You have to think about about the weather, because if you're living in a cold place and you're moving and you're racing in hot weather, I mean, you need to think, you need to make a plan to compensate that one, not just the attitude. And then I have another question, is like, what is the number one thing people forget to bring on a race day? That's a good one. The first thing is like they always forget the goggles. Yeah, they forget the goggles, they forget for the running shoes, the bib number. There's so many things about it. So I always send to my people and a checklist, and I always recommend you to do double check or maybe 3 times check before they pack everything, so they won't forget. And even in that one, if you do double check, you might lose something. So don't worry. When you go to an event like an Ironman, there is stores everywhere, so you can shop you can take up your extra pair of sunglasses, your goggles, or whatever you extra things you need. But I always recommend you to do a checklist and then double check or triple check, so you won't make any issues about it. And the food, you always forget about your food. And remember, you don't want to try anything new on your race day, so you have to double check your food, your nutrition plan for the race day. And then, of course, we have all these questions about the budget. It's I have this question that is somebody asked me is, what are the average cost for equipment? This, I believe that this is a really open question. What kind of equipment? Like you're meaning the bike, you're meaning the goggles, you mean your running shoes, your heart rate monitor, the place where you're training. You know what I mean? So instead of looking for the average cost, I always recommend you to get close to your coach instead of going for the store and try to get. Your coach will always recommend you to get the best things and the things that you only will need, because it's, I mean, if you go to a store, they always will tell you like buy, and of course, remember, the budget will be always an issue. So focus on what you really need and the best thing for you. Sometimes, I mean, like myself, I realized that the cheapest pair of goggles I can find, the better they fit. So I don't need to get like to look for the most fanciest one and the most nicest one and the more expensive ones. I will always look for the ones that they fit better for me, and those ones are the best ones for me. Okay, so that way you can save for lots of money for that one instead of just trying to buying things and then after that throwing into the garage. And then we have this one. It's like, how can I get competitive if I don't have the extra money for a 3 bike and the basic needs for a long course athlete? Don't worry about that one. I mean, in Mexico, we usually say el perico donde quiera es verde, which it says, which we translated with the parrot wherever he goes, it's green. That means that if you have a basic bike, focus on your training, focus on do smart training sessions, and maybe your coach will tell you to do a small changes on your bike. Maybe like get an aero bars, or maybe a nice wheel, an extra wheel set, or maybe a new seat. He will teach you. He will tell you what if your bike needs some improvements, so you will save money and you will be perform better for that one. So I know some people that they have like maybe a 10-year-old bike or 15-year-old bike. They perform like they win races. So I recommend you to go focus on your training better. And then we have another question. It's about the bikes. Of course, the bikes, there's like thousands of brands out there. and they always say that they are the best ones. And the question is, how much different really is a 1,000 bike to a 5,000 bike or a 10,000 bike? Of course, there is a lot of difference. The materials, the components, the weight, the aerodynamic, the design. There is a lot of difference between them. But if you're a beginner, I always recommend you to get a good one, maybe a used bike, maybe for $1,000 bike, maybe for a $1,500 bike, and you will perform better. So, I mean, if somebody gets broken, you won't have you don't feel like you're losing something. So I always recommend you to go for a cheapest, for an easiest bike, for a simple one, because sometimes the most expensive, it won't be the best bike for you. And I have a friend, and he went to this really nice shop in the States, and he went and asked for the best bike ever. And he just went and bought it, and it was like $15,000 bike. And actually, the guy who was selling them, he told me, "Hey man, this bike is not the best for you." And he was like, "Oh no, I don't care. I don't want the best bike ever." Oh, so at the end, he just bought it. He used it just a couple of times because it didn't fit well. I mean, it fit well, but it was really uncomfortable for him because he didn't have enough strength on his core, so he will be able to handle the aero position better. So instead of that one, well, he just sold that one. He lost a lot of money on that deal, and then after that, he went to the store and he got an easiest bike, maybe actually, I believe that he spent like $2,000 bike, and he's performing better on that one. And then, of course, avoiding injury. We have this question that one of our subscribers asked us is, how can I avoid overtraining and injury to successfully complete an Ironman? Of course, these ones there's so many things that we need to focus on. One of them is the rest, the recovery time. All those kind of data will give us our heart rate monitor, which I always recommend you to use one. And so you won't be overtraining. You need to have you need to sleep, rest well, and of course you need to eat well. I mean, it ain't matter if you're training really good, you're running in your zones, following your heart rate. But if your nutrition is not good, your risk of injury will be really high. So there's some factors that you need to consider. So remember, guys, nutrition, rest, and training in zones, which is really important. Following your heart rate monitor, and then what I usually do, what I usually recommend to the people that I start training with me is just to get the 12-week personal coaching. When I usually offer, not offer. What I usually do is we have a free 1 hour personal consultation, so we can check out how are we doing on the training. I can explain you all the data from our platform that we usually use on Training Peaks account. And then of course I usually follow them on a weekly email consultation, so they can ask me everything they can. They have all the, of course, I always support all the questions with videos, and all the sessions are really well detailed, so you won't have any questions about it. And if you have any questions, of course you can email me, or you can consult me when we have all the live consultations, and of course the videos and the checklist, which I always do. And of course, on this one, I'm gonna let Caleb to help me out. So, hey, Cal, here is your chance.
All right. Hey, that was great presentation there. I was taking notes as I went along. I love some of the information, so practical, so spot on. Basically, start from where you are and don't start buying all sorts of equipment. Don't start going crazy on a huge routine. Maybe work with a coach if that's where you need some specific advice, but work with what you got and add into it. I love what you said there, Coach Victor. The couple of things here in working with a coach. Here's some of the changes you experience. And the first one is you get a lot more efficient with your training sessions. You probably heard some of these things just about as you think about, well, gosh, if I worked with a heart rate monitor, what would happen there? Or if I was to go and approach my training a little bit differently, how much better could I get in a shorter amount of time? Another change you'll experience are the little known techniques just to make those huge improvements in your performance. Talking about transitions, T1, T2, and what the techniques are that you can use to move through those transitions a lot more easily. Working with a coach, that's the type of stuff you learn. Of course, you can read a magazine. You might be able to figure it out on your own. You might be able to Google it and figure it out on your own. But it's really hard to read a magazine or with Google to get your question answered about your specific situation. Really, part of the thing I thought was cool is Victor was talking about as you meet your goals, how you feel, the high that you have from accomplishing your goals. But really, this one here is you can enjoy your training all the way through to race day. You heard, there's a lot of moderation, pace yourself, and go at the pace that works for you, and then slowly work up from there. Another change is that you're going to feel awesome when you can achieve your goals and break through your mental barriers. In some ways, you may not even realize that they're happening. And then you turn around and say, wow, I accomplished this. I just ran a marathon, or I just ran my first triathlon, or I put them all together to get my half Ironman. It's a matter of thinking about what your goals are and then working slowly and surely towards those goals. So just to kind of pull this all together, and working with a coach, that 12-week plan that Coach Victor was explaining, or maybe with a different coach. I mean, we're just sharing what we do here and how this works. You're going to be more efficient. You're going to discover different ways that you could improve your performance. Enjoy the whole process, and you're going to feel wonderful when you're done or as you work through these goals. So you're probably asking this point is how much does this cost? And we work through this a lot. In 12 weeks of personal coaching, I mean, this is a 1-hour live consult, weekly email consultation with using data from your heart rate monitor into this Training Peaks account where Coach Victor can analyze your performance and give you feedback so you get a customized training program. As well as specific sessions that can work for you. Videos if you need to work through some of those exercises which you may not be confident or you have a question about, and then a checklist so you don't forget your goggles, your bib, your running shoes, or your food on race day. Really, 12 weeks, 90 days. If you work that out, we price this at $297. That's less than a cup of coffee each day. I'm going to put up an offer here just on the chat bar here. And you look to the side of your screen here. If you want to work through the barriers you have and you say, this is what I'm really into, and you get the coaching you need to attain the results you want, just click the Coach Me Now button. And it'll take you right through to the checkout page where you can sign up. And what's going to happen is you'll receive a confirmation and instructions to set up your initial consultation. You'll see in the offer on the right here, I'm only putting this up for about 15 minutes because I want to respect your time. And then what we're going to do is we're going to wrap up, and that will be the class. And then we'll go off and do that class, and we'll open another one in the future. So if you say, this isn't my time, I'd rather wait 3 or 4 months, that might be a better time for you. But if you say, this is my time, this is the time to be thinking about it. Other things that are going to happen next is you'll get a list of what was covered in your consultation after that 1-hour consultation. You also receive a sample training plan to follow for your first week. In that first week, that sample training plan is for you to use and try out too, and also though to give feedback to Coach Victor about what adjustments you'd like to make. And then you'll have another consultation after that first week to refine the training plan. That all sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Well, one of the things people might say is they'll say, man, I don't know, you guys, I don't know what's happening. Sounds like he's talking the talk. It sounds like he knows what he's doing. But what if I just don't like it? What if it's not a fit? What if? You know the questions you're asking already, and hopefully we'll go through those in the Q&A. But if you're not satisfied within the first 30 days, just let us know and we'll refund your money. And the only question that we'll ask you is, how can we improve? And the reason for that is that we can help others like you. If it didn't work out for you, we're going to want to change the process. But Coach Victor has trained a lot of people. He's been pretty successful in his training. And so I'm pretty confident you're going to like what you have here. So I want to leave this offer up, and you can watch that. If you decide it's for you, this is the time to click the button. And if you have questions, use the chat box within the webinar here. There's a chat box right on the side. You can use that. And I want to share some of the feedback that we've gotten from people who have worked with Coach Victor. And just while I'm looking for the questions to come in, here's one. Jose, he just started to run by accident, and he just talked with Victor. After training, he was just so excited. That's part of the emotion, part of the feeling that can come out of working with someone that's an expert in their field, helping you to develop your expertise in yours. So here, Marie saying, hey, Victor made me believe in myself so I could manage to make my first 50K ultra marathon. How about that? If that's something that's in your goals, you say, I need help in just figuring out how I work through these in a process step by step. Fantastic. It might be the person for you to work with. Here's some feedback here, and just read what happened here with Sergio. He just started less than 2 years ago, and a year and a half of training. So this is a couple months ago that Sergio wrote this. He achieved in 3 years what he had not been able to get done before. So he lowered his time in the marathon. Look at that. That's significant. Taking 26 minutes off your marathon time to get down to a 3:30 mark. And then just 2 weeks later, he's back to a 50K, great time, 4th place. And you see here, his challenge is to run an ultra marathon per month, and he's got 5 of 12 done. And I think this was written was that in May, Victor, or was it June when Sergio wrote this?
Yeah, actually, he's going for another one next week, I believe.
Fantastic.
Yeah, he's going for the next week, and then after that one, for the next year, we're planning to go for his first 100K, maybe in March.
Fantastic. Great results. So if this is what you're looking to do, if these are the accomplishments you're looking to have, you get the confidence you want to train better, more efficiently with the techniques and the tips and tricks that you know that you can't figure it out on your own for less than a cup of coffee a day, click the Coach Me Now button, and you'll get the next steps, and you'll be able to go right off and set up that 1-hour initial consultation with Coach Victor. With that, I'm going to wrap up the webinar and the presentation. I hope you got what you wanted out of the workshop. We certainly put a lot of effort into making sure we answered everybody's questions. And if you have any additional ones, you can always email. You can find us on Facebook, or you can check us back out on the website. Thanks again.